Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. As I mentioned in a previous episode, I recently upgraded my 3D printer to print at higher temperatures. The idea was that that would allow me to experiment with other types of filament like nylon and polycarbonate. Well, when I started actually shopping around for filaments, I ran into a bit of sticker shock. Turns out that your typical spool of name brand nylon filament costs more than I spent on hardware to upgrade the 3D printer. So to begin experimenting without breaking the bank, I went and bought a spool of Gizmodorks brand white nylon filament. This was the cheapest nylon filament that I could find at $29 and change for a 1 kilogram spool. Now, some people are fond of saying that you get what you pay for. I disagree. In my experience, comparing a stereotypical expensive product to a stereotypical cheap product, typically the cheap product is going to give you like 90% of the functionality of the expensive one for like 20% of the cost, making the cheap one a much better value if you're on a limited budget. And really, regardless of cost, you're always going to run a risk of getting a defective product. Now, yes, if you make a point of only buying from high-end companies that have a really well-established reputation, then yes, you can reduce that risk somewhat, but you never quite eliminate it. And even with some expensive products, the quality control isn't all that good. So all that to say that philosophically, I think I did the right thing with starting off with the cheapest nylon filament I could find. However, in this case, I did get a defective product. The Gizmodorks nylon filament was almost comically bad. Just about everything that could possibly be wrong with it was. I mean, they should seriously consider changing their name to Murphy's Filament Supply Company or something. And incidentally, for what it's worth, I did attempt to contact customer service about this. I used the form on their website to send them a note enumerating the problems that I was having and asking, one, if possible, how can I get their filament to print correctly? Or two, is it possible that it's just this particular spool of filament that's defective? And if so, how do I get a replacement? I got an auto-generated response saying that they were reviewing my inquiry and would get back to me within 1 to 2 business days. Well, that was 3 to 4 weeks ago and still nothing. So it would appear that the quality of their customer service is not much better than the quality of their filament. That said, I don't really hold that against them too much, because if your quality control department is doing its job, you shouldn't need a customer service department. The problem here is that their filament quality is not good. So if I had had any more sense and more dollars, I would have just thrown away the Gizmodorks nylon filament and tried a different brand. But cheapskate that I am, I was determined to get my money's worth out of this $30 spool of filament. And so I spent the last 3 to 4 weeks trying to figure out how I could get it to do something, anything useful. And I think I finally figured that out, so that's what I want to share with you today. The first thing to recognize about Gizmodorks nylon filament, or at least the spool that I got, is that it has some sort of contaminant in it that volatilizes at normal printing temperatures and makes little bubbles that kind of sound like popcorn popping in the extruder. Needless to say, this is rather disconcerting, and it produces poor print quality because you've got porosity and little voids in the print. That said, the best thing you can do is just to ignore it, because at the end of the day, it's not what causes your prints to actually fail, and unfortunately, there's really nothing you can do about it anyway. Now, a lot of websites will tell you that if you have a problem like this, it's because the filament is hygroscopic and it has soaked up moisture from the air, and it's that water vapor that is creating the bubbles. Well, that was not the case with the Gizmodorks nylon filament. I tried drying the filament repeatedly, following the instructions on these websites. It never made any difference whatsoever. Plus, the filament arrived sealed in plastic with a desiccant bag inside, and then I live in a very dry area where there really isn't any moisture in the air for the filament to soak up. I mean, really, I leave open filament spools on a shelf for months at a time and they never soak up moisture. So, anyway, I thoroughly ruled out the possibility that the filament was wet or had absorbed moisture, and that was not the issue. It was some other contaminant that was volatilizing in the filament. Now, of course, the bubbling does get worse the higher your extruder temperature, so you don't want to print any hotter than necessary. Unfortunately, the Gizmodorks nylon also has very poor layer adhesion, and so you have to print it relatively hot to get the layers to stick together at all. I found that about 275 to 280 Celsius was about the bare minimum temperature to get the layers to even kind of stick together. And that, of course, is running, no cooling fan, printing inside an enclosure with a print bed temperature of 90 degrees Celsius, which is about as hot as my printer will go on the bed temperature. Incidentally, if I remember correctly, Gizmodorks' recommended print temperatures for this filament were 250 to 270 or 250 to 275, something like that. So I was actually going a little bit higher than what they recommended in order to get even marginally good layer adhesion. Like I said, 280 Celsius seemed to be about the optimal point of getting the best possible layer adhesion with the least possible bubbling. Another setting that I played around with a lot was print speed, which again turned out to be kind of a frustrating balancing act, because on the one hand, the faster you print, the less dwell time the extruder has, and so the poorer your layer adhesion is. You can improve your layer adhesion by printing at a slower speed, which I definitely wanted to improve layer adhesion because the layer adhesion wasn't that good. However, the slower your print speed, the slower the flow rate through your nozzle, and the more prone the nozzle is to clogging up, which was a huge problem with this particular filament. I don't know why the Gizmodorks nylon filament is so prone to nozzle clogging, but it is. So I found that about 28 millimeters per second was kind of the optimal point to minimize nozzle clogging and also give the filament or the extruder enough dwell time to get some layer adhesion. I also found that the Gizmodorks nylon filament is extremely prone to stringing and blobbing. So I played around a lot with the retraction settings, trying to minimize the stringing. I found that to more or less eliminate the stringing and blobbing, I had to go to about 10 millimeters of retraction, which is quite a bit more than you would normally use for other filaments. However, I also found that if I used more than about 5 millimeters of retraction, then that would greatly increase the frequency and severity of nozzle clogging, to the point where the print would, print for a little while and then the nozzle would clog up and it would just fail and not print the rest of the part. So I finally landed on about 4 millimeters of retraction, as kind of the optimal point to slightly reduce the stringing and blobbing without causing the print to fail completely. I guess I'm willing to accept a little bit of stringing and blobbing because it's not that hard to trim it off on most parts, or in some cases if you've got sort of a single cross-section, stringing may not be an issue at all. Gizmodorks nylon filament is also exceptionally prone to thermal warpage and contraction. So often as I was printing a part, it would start out printing okay, and then by the time it got maybe 3/4 of an inch up, the bottom layers would warp into a convex surface that pulled them off of the print bed, even with the heated print bed at 90 degrees Celsius. And so the part would just kind of walk off to the side, and the extruder would then be squirting spaghetti into midair instead of printing on the part, and so that obviously would cause the print to fail. For small parts, like maybe a 1-inch maximum base dimension, I was able to get away with just adding some glue stick to the print bed surface, and that would get it to stick well enough that I could usually get away with printing the part as is. Anything larger than that, I found I had to print on a raft. Normally I don't like printing on rafts because it wastes filament to print the raft, but in this case it's necessary and it wastes less filament than if the print fails. Of course, a secondary issue induced by the thermal contraction of the part is getting model dimensions to match finished print dimensions if you need your parts to actually mate up with other parts or anything like that. I found that as a rule of thumb, the external dimensions of a part printed from Gizmodorks nylon are about 20 thousandths oversize minus about 10 thousandths per inch of linear dimension of the part. Whereas interior dimensions are about 20 thousandths undersized minus an additional 15 thousandths per inch of linear distance in the part. So using those correction factors, I would then apply differential X and Y scales to the part in the slicer software, and thereby sort of deform the model enough to compensate for the shrinkage that would happen in the actual part. And by those methods I was able to get acceptable fit up as long as the mating surfaces weren't too complex. So in review, my print settings for Gizmodorks nylon are an extruder temperature of 280 degrees Celsius, a print bed temperature of 90 degrees Celsius, part cooling fan of 0 or off, print inside an enclosure, which if your printer's not enclosed, that just means putting a box over the printer while it's printing. Some people just use a cardboard box. I have a wooden box that I built for that purpose. Let's see, print speed of 28 millimeters per second, maybe a little bit less for the first layer. Retraction distance of 4 millimeters. Print on a raft to minimize the effect of thermal distortion when it comes to pulling your part off the print bed. Adjust your differential scale in your slicer software to compensate for the thermal distortion if you need any critical dimensions of the part to match the model. I think that about covers it, and even with all of those settings, your print quality is not going to be very good. You're going to get some cracking between layers, some porosity. It's going to look like a pretty low quality print. So I found that I had to add a final post-processing step, and that's where the magic really happens. Specifically, I'm going to take my printed part, which as you can see has all kinds of cracks and layer debonds and voids in it, and I'm going to take a butane torch and carefully liquefy the entire surface of the part, a little bit at a time, so that that liquid nylon can flow into all the cracks, weld the part together, and solidify into a nice, smooth, continuous outer surface. I'm also standing under an exhaust fan to do this, so pardon the noise. And when we're all done, this is what we end up with. I find it's pretty much inevitable that we'll scorch the nylon a little bit as we're liquefying it with the torch. So instead of a plain white part, we end up with kind of this marbled brown surface texture, which I personally find rather aesthetically appealing, at least for parts like this pistol grip. And so, after a great deal of trial and error and labor and frustration, I finally have a good, sturdy, aesthetically pleasing component made from Gizmodorks nylon. Now, obviously this method would not work for everything, because the post-processing is going to round off any sharp corners, could even destroy thin walls or other small features on the part. But for parts like this pistol grip that don't really have any sharp corners or that benefit from rounded contours, that's not a problem. And as long as I can use the filament for something, then I can get my money's worth out of it. So hopefully the information contained in this video will help you to get the same benefit with a little bit less frustration. In any case, thank you for watching the Idahoan Show.